So tonight we're going to talk about parliamentary procedure for lieutenant governors. And as promised, we're going to try to keep it under 2 hours. So let's see. So the goals of the session will be to show you the purpose of parliamentary procedure, to review the origins of Robert's Rules of Order, and to review several parliamentary procedure techniques for good district board meetings. So the key to parliamentary procedure is that we live in a democracy and we want to use democratic principles. And the first principle is that we operate our district and the clubs by consent of the governed, using governing documents such as the certificate of incorporation that's filed with the state, bylaws, policies, and then lastly, where anything is not discussed in the 3 previous items, parliamentary procedure or Robert's Rules of Order. The key to our democracy is that leaders come from the membership, and when their term is over, they return to the membership. The powers of lieutenant governors and the officers of the district are limited to the powers set out in the bylaws, and all members of the district board are equal. That means you have equal rights and responsibilities to govern the district. Everyone has the right to be present at a meeting, to speak, and to vote on the issues. The district will always operate in a spirit of openness, not secrecy. And the district will run with impartiality and fairness, where all rules are applied equally and fairly. There's equal justice for all, so if someone's accused of conduct unbecoming, there are rules and procedures in place. And the goal is for the majority to rule, but the rights of the minority and the absent district board members should be protected at all times. Henry Robert was a major in the military. He first researched rules of Congress, and in 1876, he published a set of rules for use in non-legislative assemblies. His goal was to assist an assembly to accomplish its work, and to do that, it was necessary to restrain each individual, as the individual in any community cannot just do what he or she pleases, and that would be incompatible with the interests of the whole organization. So the basics of parliamentary procedure are to take up business one item at a time, to promote courtesy, justice, impartiality, and equality for all, and to allow for majority rule while protecting the rights of the individual or the minority or absent persons. So let's take a look at these. Taking up business one item at a time maintains order, expedites business, and allows the board to concentrate on the purposes of the district. Promoting courtesy, justice, impartiality, and equality ensures that everyone is heard, everyone gets treated with courtesy, and everyone has the same rights and no one is singled out for any special benefits or treatment. And when we allow for majority rule while protecting the rights of the minority interest, the majority has the right to rule, but the minority has the right to be heard, and then the minority accepts the decision of the majority. Each individual board member has the right to participate in the decision-making process, promoting harmony and unity. The key to taking one item at a time is each meeting should follow an agenda which is approved at the beginning of the meeting and should only be deviated by consent of the board. There should only be one main motion pending at any time. There can be certain secondary motions that could apply and take precedence, such as an amendment to a motion, referring a motion to a committee, or to postponing action on the motion. We want to make sure only one person speaks at a time and that no one speaks twice about a motion until all the board members have had an opportunity to speak. Members should wait to be recognized and don't speak out of turn. You should always refer to others in the third person, such as Mr. or Madam Governor or the previous speaker, not John or Jane. All debate is made through the chair and not directly to any other member of the board. And discussion must be limited to the issues and not the personalities or motives of anyone else on the board. When correcting a district board member, the governor would not use the member's name, but just say the motion's out of order or something like that. The governor does not take sides unless the governor relinquishes the chair and has someone else conduct the meeting. And the governor has the duty to make sure all sides of an issue are heard and the rules of debate are properly followed. District board members have a right to require a vote by ballot for any controversial issue to ensure privacy and to prevent retaliation. and any district board member accused of wrongdoing or conduct unbecoming a Kiwanian has a right to a trial or a hearing. District board members have a right to notice of all meetings. There should be no surprise meetings. And the district board members also has the right to be given previous notice when there's a proposal to rescind or amend something that was originally adopted at another meeting. When rights are so important, they cannot be taken away, except in certain circumstances, then a 2/3 vote of the membership must approve a motion rather than a majority. No one has a right to require a higher vote than a majority unless the bylaws or parliamentary procedure requires such a vote. And district board members have the right to be informed of the work of the organization through the meeting agenda and any subsequent minutes. So let's take a look at a few of the parliamentary rules that will apply to your district board meetings. First, we always need to make sure a quorum is present. This is the minimum number of board members needed for the transaction of business. And in most cases, a majority of the district board. Special cases will require a higher or 2/3 majority to be present. The quorum must be present at all times that business is being transacted, and if someone leaves, the meeting must be adjourned because you will not have a quorum at that point, and it's up to the district secretary to keep track of the quorum. If no quorum is present and there's no hope of getting a quorum, the governor can call the meeting to order, announce there's no quorum, and then adjourn the meeting. Or if a quorum may be possible, the governor can call the meeting to order, announce there's no quorum, and entertain certain motions so there's time to try to get a quorum. One of those motions when there is no quorum is a motion to recess so that everybody can go out and try to get additional members at the meeting. You can make a motion to establish the time to which to adjourn, which would be a continuation at another date and time. Or there can be a motion to adjourn and just end the meeting completely and then have the secretary renotice the meeting. Minutes are key because they inform any absent district board member what happened at the meeting. And they also remind board members of business that was carried from one meeting to another, and to remind board members that if any motions were laid on the table, that they would require board action to take the motion off the table at the next meeting. Minutes are the official legal record of what happens at a meeting, and approval means that everyone agrees that that is what happened, and there's no time limit for corrections if an error is noted. The proper way to make a motion is by saying, I move, whatever is going to happen, not I'm making a motion, but I move. The governor would then repeat the motion and say that whoever has moved, and then repeat the motion. The governor would then ask for a second. The governor would ask for discussion. When the discussion is ended, the governor would ask for all those in favor by saying aye. The governor would ask for opposed by saying no. There's no requirement that the governor ask for abstentions, but any member who wanted to abstain can so announce that at the time of the vote. The governor then would announce the result of the vote, state what happened, and state who's responsible for carrying out the action that was proposed in the motion. The governor must at all times stay neutral when asking for a vote and not try to sway the vote. The governor must make sure that a quorum was still present. There's different types of vote, and could be voice, rising, counted, or ballot votes. And if a district board member doubts the vote, the member should ask for a division of the assembly or some sort of physical manifestation of the votes. But it's initially up to the governor to determine whether or not by voice a motion has a majority vote or not. The types of motions are main motions, your subsidiary motions, certain privileged motions, incidental motions, and then motions that can bring a question back before the board. So let's take a look at some of those concepts. A main motion presents new business. It can only be made when no other business is pending, and there can only be one main motion pending at a time. It does need a second. It's debatable, and a majority vote is required. It must always be phrased in the positive, such as, I move that we sell peanuts on June 5, 2022. And there's never really a good reason to frame any motion in the negative that we shouldn't do something, because if you're not going to do something, there's no reason to make a motion. So the motions are phrased in the positive. When a member makes the motion, until the governor repeats it, the member can withdraw it or modify it without permission. Once there is second, the governor repeats the motion and places it before the board. Then it's up to the board to decide what motion will be finally voted on. And there's no obligation or right to go back to the maker of the motion to ask for permission to make any changes. That's up to the board on a motion to amend. After discussion, then there's a vote. Now, there are certain subsidiary motions that can be made while a main motion is pending. And first one would be postpone indefinitely, and we'll take a look at that in a minute, but that kills the motion. You can amend the motion. You can refer the motion to a committee. You can postpone the motion to a certain time. It's possible to limit or extend the limits of the time of debate in certain circumstances. At some point in time in the discussion, there could be a motion for the previous question or to stop debate, and there's guidelines for that, or you can lay it on the table to temporarily set it aside. When you want to postpone a discussion on the motion indefinitely, that does kill the motion. It needs a second, and a majority vote is required. To amend the motion, you can make that at any time. It's to change the motion that was previously made. However, proposed amendments must be germane to the main motion. So you can't add something onto a motion that has nothing to do with the main motion. It needs a second, and it's debatable, and a majority vote is required on an amendment, even if the main motion would require 2/3 vote to adopt it. If you want to refer to a committee, that's another way to handle a motion. It would need a second, and a majority vote would be required. If you want to postpone action on the motion to a certain time, you can make the motion to postpone. It needs a second, and it would be a majority decision to postpone discussion. You should just note that you can't postpone it forever, and it should be to the next board meeting, which according to Robert's rules shouldn't be more than a quarter of the year away from the current meeting. If you want to limit or extend the limits of debate, you can do that through a motion, but because everyone has a right to speak, this is a motion that would require a 2/3 vote as compared to a simple majority. When you want to make a motion for the previous question or to stop debate, again, because everyone has a say and should have an opportunity to have a say about the motion, a 2/3 vote is required. Now, laying it on the table for the purposes of board meetings is different than you may be familiar with in Congress or the state legislature or some other local governing authorities. It's a motion to lay on the table is only a temporary setting aside for that current meeting, and because something else should be taking up that has more immediate urgency. And so you would say, I want to put this motion on the table so we can discuss XYZ because someone has to leave, for example, and that would be a good reason to lay a motion on the table. A majority vote is required. If it's adopted, the members of the board can then take it off the table. If it's defeated, it's possible to make the motion at a later time. But if a motion gets laid on the table, you should just note that it's on the table till someone takes it off the table. If the meeting ends without it being taken off the table, it's kind of in limbo. It's not automatically put on the agenda for the next meeting. And if it's not taken off the table before the end of the next meeting, the motion dies. There are certain privilege motions that can be heard at any time. Call for the orders of the day, to stick to the agenda, raise a question of privilege, take a recess, to adjourn, or to fix a time at which to adjourn. We're going to end in an hour, or we'll fix a time at which to adjourn, set the next meeting. Incidental motions are points of order, appeals, requests and inquiries, permission to withdraw a motion, division of the assembly when there's a doubt of the actual result of a motion, division of the question to divide complicated motions into two parts instead of just one big vote, or to suspend the rules. And you can bring a question back by certain other motions that are listed here, and normally we don't see that too often. So to conclude, Henry Robert in his book Parliamentary Laws said, where there's a radical difference of opinion in an organization, one side must yield. A great lesson for democracies is to learn that the majority should give the minority a full, free opportunity to present their side of the case. And then for the minority, having failed to win the majority to their views, gracefully to submit and to recognize the action as that of the entire organization and cheerfully to assist in carrying it out unless and until they can secure its repeal. So once the board makes a decision, everyone should be on board to carry it out. And that's parliamentary procedure in 15 minutes.